That's right. The picture you're about to see is me when I was homeless at 25 years old. And looking back on a photo like that, I'm very grateful for where I am at this point in my life. Hi guys, this is Jake Josephs here, back with another mental health video, and today we're going to talk about homelessness. We're going to talk about my experience with homelessness, as I've been homeless twice in my life. 3 times actually. I've been homeless 3 times. The first time wasn't for very long, but the second time was, and the third time was probably the most difficult, as I was a lot older the third time. But for now, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to get all the latest videos that will be coming to the channel. And well, I better get started then. I was first homeless at 16 because I was in foster care from 13 to 16 years old. I was on the streets for a bit when I was 15, but 16 was when it got really tough. I was put into a hostel, which is like a homeless shelter, and at 16 years old I knew nothing about the world at that point. I just was not streetwise at all, and to be thrown into that kind of life sucked, to be honest. It was a reality check like I have never seen before. For anyone that's lived in hostels, it's bad enough, but when you're 16 years old, I saw some things that, you know, I probably can't talk about on video, but it wasn't the most pleasant place. There was many times where the support staff at this place were nowhere to be seen. They would show up for maybe 1 hour during the day. They would ask if you're okay, and they would go, and if you said no, they wouldn't really do anything about it, to be honest. And the place I was in, it reminded me of like Hogwarts from Harry Potter, because when you can just probably hear my shower at the moment, so sorry about that, but it was kind of like Hogwarts in a way, because you walked into like this enclosed space, and there was a big patch of grass in the middle, and each side, all around, all 4 corners were like houses, and there was 3 people per house, all squashed together. You all had 1 room each, and then downstairs there was a bathroom and a kitchen that you had to share. And this is all with, you know, complete strangers. You know, you kind of just thrown into these places. You get a bed and a sink in your bedroom that you live in, and that's about it. And to be honest, that's all you can really ask for, is a bed at the end of the day and a roof over your head. The problem with places like that is bullying. I've seen so much bullying there, and as a 16-year-old I experienced some of that myself. There was a time where I was just asleep in bed and somebody kicked my door off. I don't know who it was, but they come in, they took my TV, and I couldn't really do anything about it because these were grown men and I was a 16-year-old kid. So in the end, I was at that first place, which was located by Birmingham city centre. I was there for about 9 months, and the one night I just kind of packed my bags and says, forget it, I'm out of here. And I turned up at my mom's door and asked her to let me back. Thankfully she let me back for about a year, which was nice of her. And then sadly things went downhill again. And the second time I was homeless, well, this one was a bit, it wasn't very nice, to be honest, because this one was more to do with my mental health. And I was homeless the first time because, you know, of coming out of foster care and I had nowhere to go. But the second time was a little bit different, and I experienced probably you know, although I'd been through a lot in my life, my depression didn't really hit me until I was about 18 or 19 years old, and I'd always suffered with it, but I always kind of shrugged it off and ignored it. and just carried on with my life, to be honest. I wouldn't accept the fact that I was struggling mentally. And when I was 19 years old, I was in a really bad job. I was in a really bad relationship. I was living in a shared property with people who didn't respect me, and I was on a very low amount of money, and I couldn't afford to pay much of my bills or do anything apart from go to work and come home and eat, noodles, cheap noodles that cost 9p from the shop, So with all those things going on, I crashed mentally. I completely crashed. I woke up one day and I kind of just packed my bags, got on a train to London. I knew this friend in London, and I went to stay with them for about 6 weeks. I was out of control, drinking and smoking, and I kind of just lost it. And because I'd left my job and got on a train to London for 6 weeks, I left my home, my job, my friends, everything. And when I finally realised, what have I just done? I went back home to Birmingham from London, and I was homeless again, and I had to go stay into another homeless shelter. Now this time, by the time I got into the homeless shelter the second time, I was 20 years old. I was a bit more matured, and I certainly wasn't going to take any shit from anybody like I did the first time when I was 16. I got experience in these places, and the best way to describe some of these places, it's like a prison, and it can suck, to be honest. It's a huge reality check, like I said. So the second time around of coming into a homeless shelter like this, I had learned some things over the last 4 years. And for one, I made sure that nobody was going to bully me. Two, I made sure nobody was going to speak to me with any disrespect. And three, this time I was actually focused on getting a place, a proper home, a flat, an apartment for myself. Whereas when I was 16, I wasn't interested in that stuff because there was no one there to guide me. There was no support workers, there was no help. I did have a support worker at the time, but as a 16-year-old kid, and to be honest, when you're 16 years old, you don't get taken seriously, you don't get listened to. So if you open up about your problems, 9 times out of 10, it's game over. No one's going to talk to you about it, no one's going to listen to you. And that's one of the things that's wrong with the way we deal with mental health and young people in this country. So I was only in the second homeless shelter for about 4 months because I met some guy there, and we found that it was easier and quicker to get a place with 2 people than 1 person. So that worked out okay for me because we got a flat together, and that was pretty good. After about 2 months, that guy done a run, moved out, never seen him again in my life. Don't know what happened to him, but I walked into the flat, 2-bedroom flat, and all his stuff was gone, and I've never seen him again. So, but I carried on living there for about 1.5 years. Got a really good job, and that was actually probably the best year of my life in terms of I had a great job. I managed to find myself a really good job with good money. I had a really nice place all to myself, and at 21 years old at that point, I made some mistakes. I got a bit carried away with the money that I was receiving from the job I was in at the time, and I spent too much of it, and I didn't keep up with my rent payments, and the depression started to come back again, and it kind of went on a downward spiral, and I got myself into too much debt where I ran, and that's what happened. So my mental health just deteriorated, and I had to run. So, well, I didn't have to run. I could have stayed and faced my problems, but I didn't do that at 21 years old, probably when I should have. I ignored my mental health, and I thought I could fix it myself. I realised over the years that the more you get it into their head that I can do absolutely everything on my own. You're gonna crash. You will crash. I promise you, you will crash. Sometimes we need support, whether it's just to talk with a friend, a family, or, you know, the crisis team on the end of the phone, someone you're probably never gonna speak to ever again. It's better to talk, believe me. So, the third time I was homeless. Now, this one was the most difficult one to take because, again, it was due to my mental health, but it was more of the fact that I was 25 years old at this point. I got a bit too comfortable living in a toxic situation, and, you know, again, I thought that it would just go away, and it didn't go away, and it got worse and worse to the point where I was actually thinking about suicide at this point. This was January 2018, and I was a lot more matured at this point, so I knew in my mind that if I stay patient, no matter what is thrown at me in life, the fact that I was homeless again at 25 years old, I actually signed the tenancy agreement to live in a homeless shelter on my son's birthday. And I don't know if you can imagine how that felt, the fact that I was not at my son's birthday that day. I had to go and travel to him the day after and miss his party because I had to go and sign a tenancy agreement to live in a homeless hostel at 25 years old. And you can imagine my pride, everything, you know, it was all out the window. I felt like the lowest piece of scum you could ever imagine. And I blame myself for that. I got too comfortable in a toxic situation, which led to me being homeless again at 25. And I took responsibility for that one. And I thought to myself, yeah, well, no matter how bad my depression is, I could have got out of that toxic situation, and I didn't. And sometimes in life we have to take responsibility for our own actions, and that was one of those times. So that started a very long 7 months. This one was the worst place I was in terms of living conditions, but the best place I was in terms of support from support staff. And those support staff, this was, you know, private funded homeless shelter that was, you know, worked with the local council. And the support workers there were great. Every single week you'd sit down and you'd have a meeting with them. Mine was every Wednesday with the actual manager of the place, and great guy, an ex-convict that turned his life around. You got to respect that. We all deserve second chances in life, and he took his second chance and made the best out of it. And he supported me a lot during the 8 months I was there. And each week that went by, you know, I was depressed every day. I was sleeping at 3 o'clock in the daytime just so I could be awake on the night when it was more quiet, because I was surrounded by, you know, not the nicest people in the world. And I'm not one to judge, you know. These people were heavily influenced by drugs, 30, 40-year-old men. It was a strictly male place. And there'd be crowds of them outside, right outside my front door every single night, doing, every single morning, not night, doing heroin and black mamba and all this kind of stuff. And I couldn't bring my son there. I used to have my son overnight every weekend, and I couldn't have my son anymore because of where I was living. My whole life changed, and I used to sit in my room, in my little space, because it was a shared place. There was one room, a bed at the other side and a bed at the other side, and I was thrown in with some 51-year-old man I'd never met in my life. And you just got to kind of accept it for what it is. Share a bathroom, share a kitchen, and that with a complete stranger, which is better than being on the streets. So I accepted it, and I was grateful for that. And I was sitting in my little corner of the room for 8 long months, you know, with one change of clothes, a laptop with no Wi-Fi, and I kind of just sat there on the sofa for 8 months waiting until my surgery come, which helped me get the place that you see now, that I'm in now. So from the second time I was homeless, from leaving that flat due to not paying my rent, getting carried away with things in life. It had taken me 4 years, guys. It had taken me 4 years to get a proper home again. And my advice would be, you've got to find a way, or find somebody you're comfortable with where you can open up and speak. If you're struggling with your rent or bills in general, just ask somebody. I plead with you to ask somebody for help, because being homeless fucking sucks, okay? I'm giving it to you straight. It is tough. I lost 2.5 stone at 16 years old in 9 months because I was living on fucking noodles. And excuse my language, guys, but it's the only way people listen to you sometimes is when you look directly at them and raise your voice a little bit, because I've been there and it sucks, guys. It really does suck. So with all that said, and you know, a bit about my story and struggling to eat, support staff in some of the places are absolutely ridiculous and should not be support workers in the slightest. Whereas some of the support workers, like the ex-convict I mentioned, they've got a big heart and they really want to help you. And looking back, I'm very thankful for the experiences that I had, because each different experience, 16, 21 and 25, they all shaped me into the person I am today. So next part of the video, excuse me while I just get this piece of paper here, is I just want to let everybody know that in the UK, now I don't know about America, for the American and Canadian fans and support workers, fans is never a word I use ever, and I 100% take that back. Mental health survivors in America and all the other countries that are listening, that's actually the first time I've ever said the word fan. I have always used mental health survivors. So 320,000 people in the United Kingdom are homeless right now as we speak. Now I don't know about America, but I think it's around about 3.5 million people in America. It might be a lot more than that. I believe I've seen that before, over 3 million. And in other, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, guys, please let me know. I'd love to know that. And I don't know about other countries either, but what I do know is 320,000 people in the UK alone are homeless, guys. And you know, some people simply can't afford their rent, whereas some people just struggle to budget their income. And there is support out there, guys. There is debt management places that are always happy to speak to you. Your local council are always happy to speak to you. If you receive benefits in the UK, your local job centre will speak to you and help you with these things. And I know it feels, for some people it can feel embarrassing to struggle with money and to talk about the fact they struggle with money, especially if you're phoning somebody, you know, and if you haven't got a job and you're struggling with money and you've got to phone one of these organisations. At the other end of the phone is a person who has a job. But guys, don't feel embarrassed. You know, they're speaking to you, they've got a job, and don't feel like they're looking down on you because you're phoning up and talking about your money problems. Because it all comes down to not judging people. That person on the end of the phone who is speaking to you about your money problems could also be experiencing other problems in their personal life that you don't know about. It's so important not to judge people, and it's also important to we have to stop feeling ashamed of the fact that we struggle. We're human, guys. We crash every now and again. It's just the way it's the way life is. It's extremely difficult to live in this day and age, and no matter where you are in the world, because there is always something that is going to make you struggle. And I know sometimes it feels like it doesn't help to talk about it. But even if the situation doesn't change after you've spoken about it, at least you've put yourself out there, and you start to discover that there are so many others that struggle the same way you do. And sometimes it does bring comfort knowing that you're not the only one that goes through these problems in life. So I think that we should all get better at working together. That is 100% fact. And not push people away as well. That's also important, because I've been offered help in the past and pushed them away, and life only got worse, and I learned from that mistake. And I'm a stubborn person. I'm a very stubborn person, and I struggle to accept help because of the fact that I was thrown into adulthood at 16, and you know, I've kind of always done things. I realised very quickly that when life is going really good for you, there's always people around, but when life is really bad for you, there is nobody around. And I realized that, but then I found out later in life that that's not actually true. Everybody is around when things are going well for you. It's just when things start to go bad, that's when people don't want to know. It's completely the other way around, and we have to end that. When things are going bad, we have to stick together. So this is a really long video, guys, a really long video. So I'm just gonna lighten up the mood a little bit and show you guys my cat. I've just woke him up. How you doing, buddy? So that's Drogon. Isn't he amazing? So guys, I hope you're all enjoying the videos. I am trying to do more of them. Here's his brother here. We had Drogon in there, and we've got his brother here, Rhaegal, chilling. How you doing, buddy? He's having a nice nap. So guys, like I said, thank you for watching, and I hope you're all enjoying the videos, and I'll see you again next time, guys. Thank you.